I've got a fragrance haul to share with you guys today. There are some classic fragrances in here. There are some Middle Eastern fragrances, discontinued fragrances and vintage. I've also got some samples that were sent to me, and yeah, I thought I'd share with you today everything that I've picked up recently. Stay tuned to find out what I've got. Hey, how's it going everyone? Raj here. I hope all of you are doing well. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you are a returning subscriber. So yeah, I've got a fragrance haul for you today. It's been a long time since I've done a video like this. I actually went quite a few months without buying anything. I think between like May and December last year, I didn't buy any fragrances, but over the last couple of months, I've got some really interesting things in. If you guys are interested in previous haul videos I've done, I will leave a link down below where you can go to a playlist to look back at all the different things that I've picked up over the years. And all the names of the fragrances mentioned in this video will be down below. Let's kick things off with the first fragrance. So before I get into the full bottles, I wanted to do a shout out to Rich Mitch, who recently sent me some samples. So Rich, really appreciate it. He sent me a bunch of stuff here, some really interesting things, some vintage fragrances and some current production. So he sent me Zahara Signature, Pavarotti, which is quite an interesting one, Francesco Smalto Pour On, which I've really been enjoying. I wore that. I've pretty much actually drained that sample. Estee Lauder for Men, The Longing by Matriarch, Balenciaga Pour On, which I actually have a sample already, so good to get another one. That's a discontinued fragrance. And Coriolan by Guerlain. So I will do a video dedicated to all of those fragrances, maybe do like a Scents of the Week, Rich Mitch edition. And yeah, stay tuned for that. Right, let's go on to the full-sized bottles. The first one to show is technically not a repurchase, although it kind of feels like one. This is from Dior, and this is Eau Sauvage, but the Parfum version. So the original, well, the proper original came out in 1966. The Parfum version, the original, what I was trying to get to, was released in 2012, and then a few years ago in 2017 they did a kind of a reworking of this fragrance. I had a 5 ml decant of this new version, went through it, I just knew I had to buy it. I really enjoyed the first edition, and I actually reviewed that one, gave it a rating of around 9 out of 10, and I do have a Dior playlist if you want to go back and have a look at that review. This is a real beauty. It's actually quite simple in terms of the note breakdown, but I feel like there is a lot more going on in here than the note breakdown suggests. I'll talk about it. I'm ready to review it. As I said, I went through a 5 ml decant. What I will say in summary for this one is that it's smoother than the 2012 version, but still retains that resinous accord. It still has that smoky sweet vetiver in there, but also this one really, for me, felt like in the opening a lot like the original 1960s release, whereas the 2012 version kind of felt like completely different fragrance. And this kind of is a completely different version, but in the opening there is a lot of, I would say, similarities to the original Eau Sauvage. Okay, so going on to the next fragrance, this is one that I recently mentioned. You guys will know that I've been focusing a lot more on old school fragrances, classic fragrances. I've set up a series on the channel called the Old School Fragrance Series, and when I went through this decant, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a bottle. From Caron, this is Pour Homme de Caron. And I really like this sort of green, it's kind of like a crocodile effect down the side here. And classic fragrance, very simple fragrance. This is the second Caron fragrance I now have, along with the third man. Yeah, you have to really like lavender, I feel. I mean, if you're not normally a fan, I would still say check it out, but yeah, smoky lavender and sweet vanilla, it's powdery, it's classic. It's very calming, it's very gentleman-y fragrance, but yeah, I think a woman could definitely pull this one off. A real classic fragrance from the house of Caron. Okay, going on to the next fragrance. This is actually a discontinued one that I used to own Really happy to have it back in my collection. From Van Cleef and Arpels, this is Midnight in Paris. This is the Eau de Toilette version. And when I first started reviewing back in 2012, this was spoken about a lot. It came out in 2010. And yeah, it was all over YouTube, like everyone was hyping this one up. For some reason it got discontinued. Olivier Polge is the perfumer behind this. He also worked with, I've got it here actually, Domitil Michelin Berthier, so sort of joint creation. I'm not actually filming this video on my normal camera, I'm using my phone, which I don't know if it's going to really focus on it, so I'd love to do a proper close-up, but you can kind of see the constellations here in the bottle. It's a really, this might be one of the greatest fragrance designed bottles ever. And the fragrance, man, this is a really special fragrance and it's so good to have it back. I got it for a pretty good price actually on eBay. Yeah, smoky, benzoin, tonka, rubbery, vanillic, sweet and smoky at the same time. Oh, this is so good. Yeah, I'm really pleased to have this one back in my collection. And I think what you'll see in this kind of in this video, not exactly, but a little bit in this video and previous hauls I've done, is that I'm bringing a lot of fragrances that I used to own back into the collection. So yeah, really pleased to get that one. And also I had a bit of a surprise when the person who I bought this from on eBay, I was talking to him. He seemed like a fragrance enthusiast. And he said, I'm going to throw in a couple of freebies for you. I thought he meant samples, but turns out he actually meant two full-size bottles of fragrances from the Middle Eastern brand coming out of UAE. This is Lattafa. This is, Ameer Al Oudh and Raghba for men. So yeah, don't know anything about these fragrances, to be honest. And I was kind of intrigued by them. So the first one to show you is Ameer Al Oudh, and the cap is pretty bad. I mean, it doesn't stay on. I guess this is supposed to be like a budget fragrance. Don't know too much about it. I've done a couple of sprays. I've worn it like once, and it's an interesting one. I think there is definitely some similarities to 24 Gold, which is, I don't even know if that one is still around anymore, to be honest, but a lighter version of that. It smelled okay. I wouldn't say it's anything spectacular. It did, after a while, start to get a little bit irritating, and it did smell a bit cheap, if I'm honest with you guys. Really long-lasting fragrance, but I'm gonna test it properly. I want to give it a fair chance, but I have a feeling I'm not going to love it. But you know, a free bottle, you can't really complain. I will use it. There will be some usage for it in my life. And then the next one is Raghba for men. I'll show you. This is actually the sleeve. The bottle, the box comes like this. You got the Arabic on there. And this fragrance, when I first tried it, again, I had no idea what this fragrance was all about, and hadn't watched any reviews or hadn't read anything about it. The first thing that actually came to mind is, oh, this is a Creed Millésime Impérial clone. Then after a while I thought, no, this is not Millésime Impérial, this is Original Santal, which actually I still think in the opening. Then after a while I thought, wait, this is actually a Green Irish Tweed clone. Then went online to Fragrantigo. Obviously everyone's talking about how it's a GIT clone. If you guys have seen my video talking about clones, you'll know my position on them. Maybe I'll leave a link down below. Basically, the idea for me is that you should always praise and encourage like creativity and originality. But I think clones come in there and basically shine a light on these more expensive houses and maybe make you realize that you're paying like silly amounts of money, and if somebody else can come along and clone it for very cheap, then you got to start asking questions about the luxury brand, right? This is actually one that I quite like. It has a sporty feel to it. It's nowhere near as good as GIT, but it has it goes off in a more sort of aquatic, watery, citrus aromatic kind of vibe, whereas GIT is very lush, very green, feels very natural, whereas this one doesn't quite go there, you know, but still, actually, I think it's quite a solid fragrance. Quite a blingy bottle with the cap. It's a little bit too much gold for me, but yeah, I think I would actually, I'm going to wear this one, give it a really good wearing and probably enjoy it. Okay, so next we have some fragrances which are vintage fragrances. Now, I was looking on eBay and, you know, just browsing around, seeing what was out there. I don't really have much experience with vintage things and discontinued stuff. It's just not my area of expertise. But I was just searching and I thought, let me see what I can find. So, what I got was vintage versions of Guerlain's Vetiver and Heritage. This is the EDT version. I've also picked up, this is actually for my dad, this is from Dunhill, this is called Dunhill Cologne. And also a fragrance that I had never smelled, had no idea about this one. From Dior, this is Jules. This is a 9 ml. So let's start with the Guerlain, Guerlain's Vetiver and Heritage. I mean, look at the bottles. Really cool. I like how they're like little minis here. Again, if I was using my proper camera, I would do a little close up. So when I was talking to the seller, she wasn't 100% sure about the dates, you know, the decade when where they're from, and there are some badge codes and stuff on these bottles, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to really place the year. She said that Jules is more likely to be from the 80s, Heritage is probably from the 90s, Dunhill probably from the 70s, Vetiver she wasn't too sure. I mean, they're old, to be fair. Some of these fragrances are probably older than I am, but let's see. Vetiver Eau de Toilette, so I have the current version. I was interested in trying this one because I wanted to see, you know, how does it compare to the current version? Presuming that this is still, you know, it hasn't gone off or any of the top notes haven't worn out. I did a couple of dabs recently. It's a really beautiful fragrance. It starts off very earthy, quite strong, and does later on smooth out. The tobacco comes through a lot more. It's a lot more mossy. I could definitely pick up on that. Perhaps, you know, the oak moss, which is now banned, or, you know, you can use it only in certain ways nowadays. I would say though that the current EDT that I have is really good. I honestly wouldn't say that I'm, you know, don't buy the original, the current version when the sort of vintage is where it's at. But I do actually feel like this is probably better after one kind of few dabs, but I need to give it a fair shot. But honestly, you know, after the first hour or so, hour or two, I was thinking, actually, I'm pretty happy with the version that I have. But one thing that's cool about these vintages and these minis is that it's, you know, they're rare, they're something that is from a different era. You can pick up on differences in the scent, and it's always good to see what it was originally like when the fragrance not first came out, but what it was like a few decades ago. If you guys have any experience with these, please let me know. This is Heritage or Heritage, the Eau de Toilette. Now, I'm more familiar with the Eau de Parfum, which is the version that I currently have. So I was really interested to try this, and wow, it is really quite bold in the opening. A lot, I would say, probably stronger in terms of like the density of the scent than my current EDP. Definitely a lot more patchouli that comes through. It's almost got like a boozy vibe, actually, kind of a alcoholic kind of feel to it. Really, really nice. I have to say with this one, actually, I did think to myself, wow, actually the vintage version is quite a lot different, and it feels a lot better than the current version. But I haven't actually tried the current EDT, so that would be ideal to have to do a little comparison. All right, so moving on to the next couple. This is the Dunhill. This is Dunhill Cologne. Hard to say. It was a bit tricky with the Dunhill because there are so many different names. I was thinking, is this Dunhill edition? It's not Dunhill edition, it's a different color. It says Cologne for Men over here. And I love this bottle, this ribbed bottle, Dunhill. It is on the back, on the underside of this bottle, it gives the dates of their, I believe, which is still their current store here in London on Duke Street, on corner of Jermyn Street and Duke Street, St James's. And there's also some sticker about maybe from an Italian distributor, or I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I need to do some research. There's so many websites online where you can find out a lot more about these. Raiders of the Lost Scent is one that I've had a look at a few times, Base Notes and probably Fragrantica. This one for me, soapy, really clean and soapy, green, herbal, quite nice, quite classic. I actually really enjoyed this. As I said, I bought this one for my dad, so hopefully he enjoys this one. He's quite a big fan of Dunhill edition. He doesn't have it at the moment, but I do remember him having that one. So yeah, that's pretty cool, I think. Nice bottle. And next one is a fragrance that is completely new to me. This is Jules. This one, let's have a look. This came out in 1980. They re-released it in 2016, but I hadn't tried that version. This is a little 9 ml here, and the bottle is really cool. I really like this design. Not sure how much the camera will pick up, but they've got these little indentations or little curvature, so your thumb can kind of fit in there. I'll give you an idea of how big the bottle is. And this was a totally, well, it's kind of an experience for me because it's a very different scent profile to, well, firstly, what I'm used to, but also what is currently out there in terms of modern men's fragrances. Again, with the soapy feel, leathery, kind of medicinal, got some spices in there. It's quite an interesting one. I kind of thought to myself, this kind of reminds me, not exactly in scent, but kind of in style to Kouros. It's hard for me to put that finger on it, but that soapy, aldehydic, sharp citric feel, I feel is also in here. They're actually quite different fragrances. So yeah, it's good to get my hands on a piece of history. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Have you tried these fragrances? Do you own them? What do you think about vintage fragrances? Drop a comment down below. Also, if you'd like to support what I do have a Buy Me a Coffee page where 20% of your the contribution goes to Cancer Research UK. So thanks to the couple of people who've already made a contribution. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for the support. Take care, everyone. Bye.